4,000 years ago, in the heart of the grand Mesopotamian civilization, a man was born in one of the oldest and most powerful cities in history, Ur of the Chaldeans. This fertile and rich land, bathed by the majestic Tigris and Euphrates rivers, was the epicenter of progress and culture, but also of paganism and idolatry. At every corner, imposing temples rose in honor of false gods, and humanity, having survived the Great Flood, began once again to drift away from the true Creator. Noah, Abraham's great-grandfather, was in the final years of his life, and with him a generation that had witnessed divine judgment and the rebirth of humanity was passing away. But something terrible was happening. The hearts of the people were turning once again to idols, distancing themselves from God. In the midst of this spiritual darkness, one man was about to be called on a journey that would change not only his own life, but the destiny of all humanity. What most people fail to realize about Abraham is that, despite Noah likely teaching him about God, the Bible itself tells us that Abraham and his family worshipped Mesopotamian idols. They were immersed in the polytheistic culture of Ur, his homeland, where religiosity was one of the fundamental pillars of life. Ur was a grand city with monumental temples dedicated to deities like Nana, the moon god, who was revered as the protector of kings and harvests. Priests taught that the gods controlled every aspect of life, from the seasons to luck in battle, and idolatry was instilled from childhood. Abraham grew up in this environment, surrounded by elaborate rituals, sacrifices, and ceremonies that reinforced the dominance of polytheistic religion over the people. It was in this context that, completely unexpectedly, he received a call that would change his life forever, a direct invitation from the Creator, the one true God, to break away from everything he knew and follow an uncertain but divinely guided destiny. On an ordinary day, as life followed its usual course, something extraordinary happened. In the midst of the routine of a city devoted to idolatry and the worship of false gods, the Creator of the universe chose one specific man for a divine calling. The God of Noah spoke directly to Abraham, and with an unmistakable voice gave him a command that would forever change his story. "Leave your land, your family, and your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you." These words were not merely an instruction, they were a challenge to his faith, a definitive break from everything he had ever known. Abraham lived in a structured society where security and stability were found in the family and homeland. Leaving without a clear destination seemed irrational in human terms, but against all earthly logic, Abraham believed. He did not just accept God's words, he acted. By faith, he made the boldest decision of his life, renouncing the comfort and certainties of the present to embrace an unknown future, trusting only in God's divine promise. With his wife, Sarah, and his nephew Lot, Abraham set out on a journey filled with uncertainties, challenges, and trials. Each step was a choice between doubt and trust, between fear and obedience. The nights under the starry sky, with the wind blowing over their tents, served as a reminder that he was being guided by a divine promise. He likely followed the trade routes of the time, crossing deserts and valleys, making strategic stops where he could find water and provisions, always watching the horizon and imagining where God would lead him. With each new dawn, his faith was renewed, for even though he did not know exactly where he was going, he knew with whom he was walking. He passed through Haran, a vibrant and prosperous city, yet still immersed in idolatry, where they also worshipped Nana, the moon god. For a time, Abraham lived there, and perhaps he felt the temptation of comfort and familiarity, for Haran was similar to Ur. But God had not called him to remain where it was safe. He had called him to something greater. It was there, in the midst of transition, that God once again confirmed his promise to Abraham. Amidst the uncertainties and the weight of responsibility in leading his family, Abraham heard the Lord's voice echoing in the silence of his soul, reminding him that his destiny was not in cities built by human hands, but in the land that God was preparing for him and his descendants. Throughout the journey, Abraham faced moments of great trial. One of them occurred when famine struck the land, leaving his family vulnerable and without provisions. Fear and uncertainty loomed, but he had no choice but to keep moving forward, believing that God would provide. Desperation led him to go down to Egypt, a strange and unknown place where he would need to find a way to survive. There, Abraham was overcome with fear. He knew he was a foreigner and feared that the Egyptians, upon noticing Sarah's beauty, might threaten his life. Feeling powerless in the situation, he resorted to human strategies to try to protect himself. However, it was in this moment of fragility that God revealed his power and care. He intervened in an astonishing way, protecting Abraham and his family, and not only delivered them from danger, but also made them prosper. The episode in Egypt was not just a test of faith, but a powerful lesson. Even in the midst of uncertainty, God was in control of everything, leading Abraham toward a greater purpose. When he returned to the Promised Land, new challenges arose. Abraham's and Lot's flocks had grown so large that their herdsmen began to argue over territory. In an act of humility and trust in divine providence, Abraham allowed Lot to choose first where he wanted to settle. Lot opted for the fertile plains of the Jordan, where the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were located. This decision had disastrous consequences for Lot, but Abraham remained steadfast in his faith. Abraham continued his journey and in Mamre built an altar to the Lord. He understood that his relationship with God was his highest priority. Amidst the hardships, he sought the presence of the Almighty, building altars wherever he went as a symbol of his devotion. His journey was not just a physical pilgrimage, but a profound spiritual transformation. But the greatest test of his faith was yet to come. God asked him for something unthinkable, to sacrifice his son, Isaac, on Mount Moriah. Abraham loved Isaac deeply, for he was the son of the promise, the one through whom God had said he would make him a great nation. However, Abraham did not hesitate. He trusted that God would provide a way, even if it meant raising his son from the dead. At the crucial moment, when Isaac, with innocent and trusting eyes, asked about the lamb for the sacrifice, Abraham felt his heart tighten. Every step toward Mount Moriah was an extreme test of faith, a mixture of love and obedience. The wood was ready, the altar was built, and there, at the peak of the trial, his son's voice echoed, "Father, where is the lamb?" Abraham looked at Isaac tenderly, and even without seeing the solution, uttered the words that would echo through the ages, "God will provide for himself the lamb." His heart pounded, but his trust was unwavering. At the very instant he raised the knife, the Lord's voice thundered from heaven, commanding him not to harm the boy. He turned his eyes and saw, caught in the thicket, the ram that God himself had provided. This moment established the eternal covenant between God and Abraham. His faith was tested to the utmost, refined like gold in fire, and emerged stronger than ever. In that instant of absolute surrender, Abraham comprehended in the deepest part of his soul that the God who had called him out of idolatry was not just a distant deity, but a loving, faithful, and providing Father. He saw that even when all seemed lost, when the sacrifice appeared inevitable, God already had the answer, the provision, the escape. Abraham learned that trusting in God is not just an act of faith, but total surrender, an unshakable certainty that the one who has promised is faithful to fulfill. The story of Abraham challenges us to ask, are we willing to trust God, even when everything around us seems uncertain? Would we have the courage to let go of our own security, our own plans, to follow a promise we cannot yet see? Abraham's journey teaches us that faith is not just about believing, but about acting, walking in obedience even when the steps seem difficult. God continues to call his children to journeys of faith, to challenges that shape our character and strengthen our trust in him. And just like Abraham, we are invited to surrender our doubts, our fears, and our anxieties to the God who never fails. May we respond to the divine call with the same courage and surrender, knowing that the one who has promised is faithful to fulfill. May Abraham's inspiring story motivate us to follow our own journey of faith with courage and hope. Just as Abraham took his step of faith without knowing what lay ahead, God is also calling us to trust him, even when the path seems uncertain. What journey of faith are you living today? In what area of your life is God asking you to trust and surrender completely? Reflect on this and allow this story to transform your spiritual walk. Don't keep this message to yourself. Share this video so that more people can be touched by this powerful truth. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and join us on this journey of faith and discovery of God's promises.